Welcome everyone to our Igniting Cultural Capital series in partnership with UBS. As a longtime supporter, they are such an important ally for founders and funders where culture is key to building inclusive capital ecosystems. And for that, I am very grateful. And thank you all for joining us today. And please know that you are the key to igniting conversations around the importance of cultural capital. I'm Corey Hale. If you don't know by now, I am the CEO and co-founder of Culture Banks, and we're going to discuss the importance of igniting cultural capital within the experience technology ecosystem with Bandwagon. But I'd like to start by having Jamie Sears join me. She is the head of Community Impact Americas for UBS and is our partner in this Igniting Cultural Capital series. Hi, Jamie.
Hey, Corey.
I'm happy to have you back again because we're kicking off the final discussion of this series. And I'd love for you to share more about your support of Igniting Cultural Capital and what exploring cultural capital has meant to UBS.
Thank you, Corey. I can't even believe that we're already at the final episode of this Igniting Cultural Capital series. I just found hearing from these incredible founders who are innovating and leading the way in their respective industries, along with their investors, to be so inspiring. Each of these episodes has given us insights into how these founders and investors are really leaning into their cultural capital to challenge the status quo and create the worlds that they want to live in. So I'll just quickly start with why this topic of exploring cultural capital has been important to UBS. I think the short answer is, ownership and asset building is the pathway to generational wealth, and ownership around one's cultural capital and insights, the genius, resilience, and frankly, for the investor community, the alpha that it can drive in the world of entrepreneurship is so important. So if I had to choose just a few highlights, in last month's episode on EdTech, hearing from co-founders Erica Hairston and Arnell Ansong of EdLift, addressing the abysmal lack of diversity in tech by growing the pipeline of talent that exists and then connecting them to companies that need them. Emphasizing the huge market need and opportunity. I loved how the Parfait co-founder talked about utilizing AI technology to customize the wig and extension experience. And by the way, also transforming facial recognition for people of color in the future for the better. Through the process of the data collection and the learnings of this current company. So it's not every day that you're, seeing examples of people who are being able to transform AI facial recognition. And then I loved hearing reflections from the investors behind these companies as well. Ida Ekbadem from Gingerbread Capital, an investor in Menta Cosmetics. She talked about the importance of intentionality in the work that she's doing as an investor, and the effect of showcasing the stories of women like the founders of Vented for all the women that come after them, highlighting not just the struggles, but also their wins as examples of what's possible. And then lastly, just the very first episode that featured Vega X, the fintech company in asset management, the asset management space, led by and co-founded by Natasha. The investor, William Balbine from SOS, I think General Partners, he just talked about how the more that underrepresented founders have an opportunity to grow their companies, the more problems that will be solved, which I thought was really powerful. So I know that was a lot. I loved the series so far, and I'm excited for today. Founders from these underrepresented backgrounds come with a broad understanding of the market, and I think that's really part of what fuels their growth. And so being able to partner with you on this has been really important to showcase the talent that does exist and how we can help change the narrative around these founders and innovators, which is why we're really excited to work on this with you. And we all need something to be optimistic about these days.
Yes, so we do. Jamie, as always, we love your support and we're so grateful that you continue to support Culture Banks and obviously the entrepreneurs and the investors that are really building up a diverse, inclusive capital ecosystem. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Corey.
Let's go ahead and jump right into our conscious conversation today around igniting cultural capital. Our excellent panelists include Harold Hughes, who is the founder and CEO of Bandwagon, a South Carolina-based live experience technology company. And under his leadership, Bandwagon has raised more than $3 million in venture capital and successfully acquired Ideal Seed Inc. That was in 2020. We also have two of his investors joining us. We're going to start off with Marie Rocha, who is the co-founder and managing director of Realist Ventures, which is a Connecticut-based venture fund that invests in early stage software and biotech startups with diverse teams solving scalable problems. She has over 20 plus years of experience in business and technology as a software engineer and serial entrepreneur herself. Prior to her foray into venture capitalism, she founded and managed iMac Software, a company building software and platforms for small businesses and nonprofits. Harold's other investor that we have joining our conversation today is Kwame Anku from Black Star Fund, who is the CEO and chairman of the Black Star Fund, an early stage innovation fund. Prior to the Black Star Fund, Kwame co-founded and served as principal of the Black Angel Tech Fund, a pioneering fund that focused on capitalizing Black technology entrepreneurs. He was actually named, everyone, one of the top 25 Black venture capitalists to watch in 2018 by PitchBook. Kwame entered into the tech industry. This is one of the coolest things I think we've ever had from an investor standpoint happen after everyone being personally recruited by the late legendary rock star Prince to develop his personal mobile app, overseeing business and development teams in Africa, Asia, and the US. Welcome all three of you to this igniting cultural capital conversation. And thank you all for your willingness to share and participate. With that in mind, I want to dive right in, and I'm going to kick it off with our entrepreneur here, Harold, who did go on, right, to raise $3 million plus, which the majority of Black founders, they have a very hard time even getting to that seven-figure $1 million mark to raise money. So Harold, I'd love for you to tell us about your path to becoming a venture-backed company, along with the unique space that Bandwagon operates in.
Of course. First off, thanks for having me. It's been great to be a part of the Culture Bank story for so long. And so in starting my company, it's been really interesting. We came into this knowing just how difficult it is to raise capital. And so one of the things I had to identify and understand in the beginning was that the road would be hard, that the road would be long, but we didn't have to go alone. And so I was really fortunate to have some amazing investors and early team members, especially shout out to Marie and Kwame for joining us early on in the beginning. But for us, we really just started to lean in on what we were good at. Oftentimes as founders, you get into this woe is me type of scenario where you look at the deck being stacked against you. I looked at this as an opportunity for me to come in as an outsider with unique ideas and different perspectives and to truly build a really inclusive team. So when we looked at the fact that I was starting a company as a first-time founder who didn't go to Ivy League school, who wasn't an alum of a FANG company, as a Black founder who's raising money outside of Silicon Valley, that's 5 strikes against you if you're looking at it that way. But for us, we were able to think through, how do we build a sustainable business with less capital? How do you be capital efficient once you get the capital? How do you pay people really good wages relative to where you're living so that they're able to feel excited about the work they're doing, but also be comfortable in their living status? And so that's what we've been able to do. And that's allowed us to get to this point. We're just getting started. And so it's been a really great journey. But I think that that's really helped us, starting with a unique perspective of not necessarily thinking about a deficit mindset, but really us being change makers and creators and opportunists, seeing a space. And so the last thing I'll say to that is we never came into this saying, we're going to disrupt X. My company's ethos lives in complete versus compete. And so we love to collaborate and we love to find ways to work with other companies. And as we see the market getting bigger, we see ourselves contributing to that larger market growth and seeing how we can take a share of that success as well.
Harold, what I love about Bandwagon is you were literally one of the first entrepreneurs that I met that was really operating in a part of tech that I had no idea about. Like, I was like, what is this experience tech and what you're doing with tickets and fan experience? I was like, this is mind boggling. And I was thinking, my God, Black people are so smart. Like, they just figure out all sorts of things. I was just so impressed by the company. I'm still impressed to this day, but just as one of the early entrepreneurs that I met in my own entrepreneurial journey, I was like, he is so impressive. My goodness. All right, let me move it over though to some of your investors. And I want to start with you, Marie, because you have such a diverse background, especially being a software engineer, being a serial entrepreneur yourself. And now I'm really moving into this venture capital space, especially when you think about how investors typically invest in people who look like them and who are from their community. When you think about that broader venture capital ecosystem, with 70% of venture capitalists being white, 26% are Asian, and only 3% of them are Black, can you share from your own perspective why prioritizing underrepresented founders really creates an untapped market opportunity for you at Realist Ventures?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a no-brainer for us. I started in tech at a very young age of 19. I was like that super geek weird kid as a teen. So I knew I was alone. Like, there were very few people and as software engineers. In fact, I married my husband because we both worked for the same company. It was super easy to like just connect because there weren't that many Black people. And so for me, it was super, obvious that like we had been overlooked, women and people of color. That was the missed opportunity. So it was not a difficult choice. And plus, many innovations, as you brought up with Harold, have been thought of by people of color. We just haven't had access to capital to bring them to market. And so when we started, it was super important. My partner and I, who's Asian, from the Philippines, and we talked about what our thesis would look like and where we wanted to focus. We automatically went for the untapped market. That included, people who served time in prison, which was like also difficult one to sell to LPs sometimes, but we felt like we are not giving those people opportunities who have a lot of talent around distribution and all sorts of other things. And so that was super important for us.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of people, when they think about underrepresented founders, to Harold's point also earlier, like, this is not like a handout. Like, these are literally the companies that are solving problems for the future. And we need, the work that you're doing at Realist Venture, Marie, and of course, the work that Kwame is doing at Black Star Fund, to continue to support these type of founders, which actually is going to bring me over to you now, Kwame, because when you think about the investing ecosystem, especially someone who has been in this investing game for quite some time at this point, is an inclusive investing strategy, in your opinion, and really building up diverse-led startups something that's a major key to success?
Yeah, well, again, like our esteemed panelists, thanks, Corey, for having me. It's exciting to be able to talk with you, with some of my favorite people in the game. So I want to say that at the outset, before we were talking about this theoretically. We did a little bit of a break, and I think you heard it both with Harold and Marie, right? Where people would say things like, oh, look at this disparity. This is awful. We should do something about it. Well, that's true. However, that's not an investment thesis. And you can't raise money saying, oh, well, Black founders are not getting money and they should be getting money. We never looked at it that way. We always looked at it, as you heard from both Harold and Marie, that this is a massive opportunity. The challenge back then was that it was theoretical. The great news is now we've got the data, not from a Harvard Business Review study, not from PitchBook. We run these funds. We've got portfolios that are 17, 18, 24 companies deep. We've been in these companies 3 to 5 years, and now we've got the data. So I knew that Black founders were going to get outsized returns. I knew that back in 2016. Now in 2022, we've got the numbers. I'll give you some examples. We've got a company, Actively Black. There's a clothing company, launched in 2020, Black Friday, did $50,000 its first day in sales. Did $2 million in its first full calendar year. Now has influencers like Steve Harvey, Steph Curry, Megan Good, the list goes on, partnerships with Peloton, and now they just announced a partnership with Black Panther 2, which is going to come out in November. We're up 1,800% in that company. The valuation went from $1.3 million a year and a half ago to $32.5 million. And they just closed the Series A, $8.5 million. I can go list, this is our portfolio. I can go company by company. Also, we're 50-50 gender parity, with 65% of the capital skewed to Black women. We've only had one company out of 17 that has failed in 3.5 years. All Black, right? So the data is there now. So you're talking about revenue, you're talking about growth, you're talking about valuation growth. All of those things are there. So we're in a really exciting time, because I think as fund managers are raising funds now, they don't have to keep selling the story of what needs to happen. They can just look at Realists, they can look at Mac Ventures, they can look at Backstage Capital, they can look at Harlem Capital, they can look at Black Star Fund, they see the numbers, they see the growth. And the reality is this is really the highest growing asset class in the space.
I love that. And I love that you went through all of those statistics. Yes, because now we do have the data. We are able to directly point to the successes that have occurred with Black run companies. And now we don't have to keep fighting for that same storyline across the board. That makes me so happy that you even shared that with us. So thank you for that. Harold, I'm going to bring it back to you. So I was doing a little research, and according to a Harvard Business Review, the cost to retain a customer is around 25% lower than a cost of acquiring a new customer. And on over to Grandview Research, they actually found the customer experience market, which is where you guys kind of operate in. That market size expected to reach $38.9 billion just 8 years from now in 2030. In your opinion, Harold, what role would you say that cultural capital really plays when it comes to creating access to a bigger share of that particular market, that customer experience market for Bandwagon?
Well, for me, I think about the social capital. That's the thing I think is probably the most valuable asset that we have in our company, is that aside from the fact that we've been building a business that has products, that's done $1 million in revenue since we created it, and we're supporting companies as large as different universities and working with major brands. The thing that we've realized is that we are contributing to the community. So when I'm not building this company, I'm working with partners like Chandra Washington and Audrey Equinye to say, how do we get blockchain and these tools into the hands of the Black community? How do we find ways to galvanize each other? And it's funny how when you stop thinking about who owes you what or who needs to exchange X for Y, how these things kind of become cyclical. And the community gives back and the ecosystem gives back. And so I think that, you know, as we look at even as delivering products and services, it's been interesting to see, as to your point about customer acquisition versus retention and going deeper into that customer, we're finding that a lot of times our customers may not even know what they want, but they need to have someone who they can trust, help hold their hand, walk them through solutions, as well as opportunities. I think some of the times startup founders try and play up on, this is our solution, this is how this works, and they don't realize that they can help their customers see other opportunities as well. And so one of the things that we make sure to do at Bandwagon as we're leveraging Web3 tools like NFTs and blockchain is we do a lot of education, yes, but we also help them think through how do they use our technology and enter the space authentically. And that all comes down to the social capital and brand equity that they have, and we want to help them not only maintain, but expand on. And so we've been really fortunate to have these things working in our favor as contributors to the ecosystem. And we think that that type of thing is going to help us not only contribute to our bottom line, but also contribute to an ecosystem that brings in more Black founders and more founders who've traditionally been left out.
I love Harold. I feel like you're putting some of us other entrepreneurs to shame. I'm like, gosh, on top of the work that you're doing for the business, the work that you're doing for the community as well. I mean, it's inspiring, especially to people like me. I'm like, you know what, let me step up my game, because like I need to be a bit more like Harold. Like, how can I bring this more to the people and the community, at least from the Culture Bank's perspective and what we do. All right, I'm going to wrap this up with one final question. I'm going to throw this out to your investors, Marie and Kwame. So you, either one of you can, pick up on this first, because we are seeing the needle move, right? When it comes to the shifting paradigm on cultural capital, to points that both of you guys have expressed before, right? We are able to really seed in money to companies that we know are scalable, solving problems, and giving investors great returns. What else are we getting right that makes both of you all extremely optimistic about this space going forward?
I wouldn't say I'm extremely optimistic yet. I think
Oh
that
no, you're not. You're not.
no, it's funny. Realist is our name because that by nature, that is me. I'm data driven and so on. But we are seeing a ton of progress, and I'm glad a lot more people of color are breaking into venture, writing checks. I mean, even Harold and I, we've written we are in, I don't know, more than 5 deals together as Angel. I think those things are going to help, but I'm hopeful that limited partners will also start investing more money. I mean, I was watching a video today. I think it's like we're still at 1.3% of, the capital that goes to Black founders. And I think like that Black and women or something like that. So yes, until we see more limited, more LPs investing in emerging fund managers that don't look like them. And as Kwame mentioned, we're past the beta stage, like we're seeing growth. Our portfolios are killing it. We're super excited about where we are, but we still see more tech bros that are like raising without experience. I think I'm in talk with like 6 different people who have asked me to be their co-founder to their fund because they have no experience, but they're raising money because they have the grandfather who's now passing down money to them and all this other stuff. So because of those things, I'm less optimistic, but I am excited about the prospects. I do see more and more founders investing. I do see more and more Black people. I'm probably like super cheesy about this, but like when I see a Black fund announce, I'm like, yes, because it just helps us, right? It helps to have people to co-invest with. And also seeing more like venture models that are thinking about us. That's super important too. So yes, less optimistic than most people, but really excited about the future of venture for our people.
Yeah, I don't get to spend a whole lot of time with Marie, but one of the things I love is the balance there. So I'll give you the like extremely optimistic on my end because I'm just like that by nature. I think that's why Marie and Harold and I, we all work well together, right? Because you got to have people who actually keep your head from floating into the other stratospheres. But I'll just give you an example. When you think about post George Floyd, there was a lot of concern around these big commitments that were made, which was the first thing was like, are people really going to follow up on that? And then the second thing was a lot of people didn't. But then you also got to look at what some of the things that were extraordinary. And I'll just give you an example. Bank of America committed $1 billion to fighting racial equity, but they did $200 million in the venture. That's important because most of the banks just do debt. $200 million dedicated to Black venture over 4 years. They ended up deploying all of that in 18 months, and then they turned it up to $350 million. Over 100 new venture funds, first-time fund managers of color, receive that capital. That's one financial institution. And it's extraordinary, right? I think about what Harold's doing in the NFT space, the Web3 space. I think about what Mary Spiel is doing in the metaverse space and Web3. Mary Spiel, literally from the company Seek, just had a virtual land sale in the Seek metaverse, literally this past week. They did $1.5 million in virtual land sales in 24 hours. This is an African woman who is literally a rocket scientist, who we like to think of as the queen mother of the metaverse, literally at Facebook back in 2015, telling them about Web3 in the metaverse. And of course, they ended up changing their name. So I'm also very optimistic because there's so many more fund managers that are closing significant funds, 50 million, 100 million. We just saw Mac Ventures, $203 million. And we're seeing, everybody from Chipper Cash to Abia Susu, to Toyin at City Block, to Pinky with $100 million valuation with Slutty Vegan. I mean, every other week we're seeing it happening. And we're in these deals together, we're building together. And the reality is, as Harold said, we're just getting started. So there was in 2015, not one Black fund in the entire country investing in all Black companies. In 2022, we've got 6, 7, 8, 10 unicorns already. And billions of dollars under management between, quite frankly, like 25 of us. What does 24 months look like from now? What does 36 months? What does 60 months look like? So I'm extremely optimistic, and I think we're doing it right. I think we're doing it well. And we're going to start having significant exits, which will then, kind of to Marie's point, we're going to have our own brother and sister cultured crew that can capitalize itself. And I think we're only 3 to 5 years outside of that.
Well, I definitely hope so. And I love that you shouted out a personal friend of mine, Abby from Isuzu, somebody else who was original Culture Bank's game changer around the same time as Harold. Back when Abby lived in New York, we used to meet up at coffee shops together, like, hey, how you doing? Like, let's figure out how we're going to build these companies. So that does my heart so good to see you guys and how well connected, right, we all are in this whole entrepreneurial ecosystem. Thank you all so much for taking time to answer these questions, to have this much needed discussion. Now, I would love to transition to what we call at Culture Banks, our rapid fire discussion. We just want to get to know you all a little bit better. So feel free to just spit out the first thing that comes to your mind when I ask you the question. So let's get underway. Harold, we are going to start with you. And your first rapid fire question is, what motivates you to keep going and why?
For me, it's really straightforward. It's about my legacy and my lineage from my family. Oftentimes people will say, do you think your parents are proud of you? And I say, yeah, they've been proud. They've been proud since 2004. And so for me, I'm really fortunate. I don't have to try and chase that traditional first generation American and immigrant family story. Now I'm trying to put my son and my daughter and then their kids in a good position. And so for me, it's really selfless in that I want to make sure that the next generation is starting in a better position than I did. And I think what changed the game for me was realizing I don't have to finish the race. I just have to pass the baton to a person in a better position than I received it. And that's really me doing my contribution.
I love that. And I could not agree with that more. All right, Marie, we're moving on to you, especially because you're an investor. What are the 3 skills that you think a person needs to become a successful entrepreneur?
I don't know about everyone else, but I always look for someone who's flexible, resilient, and have self-awareness to know when to pivot or, sort of change course. So
no, I mean, those are all definitely needed skills. And I guess the superpowers that you always hear kind of investors talk about, like, how do you tap into your superpower? Just one of the many things there. Kwame, the next question coming straight at you. What time of day are you most productive?
Yeah, I'm a morning person. Like, I get up real early. Oh yeah, look at my brother and sister right there, shaking their head. Y'all need to be supportive. Just smile and say, yeah, you go, brother. Yeah, no, I get up early and I love, getting up with the sun. I'm very productive. My mind is really clear. I think better. I get much better ideas in the morning. I've always been like that. So I like to start early. But that's when I'm the most productive. Yeah.
All right. Are you telling us don't email you after 6 or 7? Because we're not going to get the best ideas.
No. No strategy sessions after 4 p.m. for me.
All right, we got it. All good. Harold, we're bringing it back to you. And I'm very interested actually to know this answer from you. What is your favorite life hack?
My favorite life hack is managing your email with a very simple delete, delegate, or delay process. When I receive an email, if I can do it within 2 minutes, I do it immediately. If it is something that does need to be done, but I can't do it in 2 minutes, I delay it or delegate it. And if it's not something that I need to do, I delete it. And that allows me to not only keep my inbox clear, it allows me to more efficiently manage my time and manage my team.
All right, I'm definitely going to steal that. Delete, delay, delegate. I never looked at the email in that perspective, but now I'm like, this is the Harold method that I'm incorporating into my everyday life. All right, Marie, we're back to you. What would you say is the one app that you cannot live?
I know this is cheesy, but the calendar app. Like, I don't know how, like, I meet people who are like, I don't use a calendar and I don't know how they can be productive. That is literally my favorite. I look at that more than anything. And I guess maybe Twitter sometimes, but the calendar app is my absolute favorite.
The calendar app, really, out of all the apps, most people might say their notes app, but the calendar app, okay, look, I get it.
Well, you can add notes to your calendar. So after meetings, I actually add notes to them. So when I can refer back to them later, I mean, it's the best. So yeah.
All right, makes perfect sense. Kwame, we're throwing it over to you now. And this might be a difficult one because especially every time I ask this question, people are like, come on now, just one. I'm gonna try to push you for just one. What would you say is the one book that changed your life?
Yeah, I just started reading. Well, I just finished one a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and it's called Untethered Life by Michael Singer. Game changer for me. Complete game changer for me. And I'm glad you asked the question because at the end of the day, especially when you're talking about investors and entrepreneurs, it's we're good at what we do, but the reality is like the best of us are just our students. So we're constantly learning, we're constantly reading, and like Harold, he's a mentee of mine and really a little brother. And he just dropped some game on me, and I'm a student of his now, right? Because that just helped me tremendously, right? The delay, delegate. I'm like, yeah, I'm incorporating that effective immediately, right? So I'm really glad that you asked that, because when you're looking at Marie, you're looking at Harold, you're looking at me, excited and inspired what we're doing, and then you can read what we read, listen to what we listen to, then you're going to be able to it's just iron sharpening iron. So thanks for the question.
Yeah, no, I actually like that you also brought up, we can listen to what you guys listen to, because it would not be Culture Bangs if we did not talk about music, because we believe that music is the driving force behind culture and an easy way for all of us to connect. So this question goes out to all three of you. What song is currently on repeat on your playlist? It's summertime vibes, everyone. We need to know. Let's start with you, Harold.
I mean, anything by Thames right now, right? You got the little, Jamaican Ganzi on, you got a little vibe to a little cola champagne. So anything by Thames, I'm really rocking to right now. She's got a track with Future and Drake. So yeah, I'm definitely rocking anything with Thames.
All right, Marie, how about you?
If I had to pick one song, it's Break My Soul. I almost feel like I'm gonna break that song. It took me a while to come over, but now that's just literally I'm fundraising for this incubator. So every time I go in, I'm like, all right, let's go. So that's my new on repeat several times a day.
And Kwame, how about you?
Yeah, it's two. I got one. I just got hip to Indie by Miguel and Santana, and then I'm still a throwback. I was a 80s rock kid, so I listen to Cult of Personality by the black rock band Living Color constantly.
See, this is what I'm saying. This is a diverse collection of songs that you guys listen to. I was actually surprised that no one said Kendrick Lamar, because we're always getting lots of, we're listening to this Kendrick Lamar song, this latest one. But yes, I appreciate the differentiation of the music. I probably would side a little bit more with Harold right now with the Thames. I mean, anything that's bringing that dance hall, anything that's bringing those Afro beats, Burna Boy, all of that is in constant repeat on my playlist. I can't get enough of it, but shout out to Queen Bee as well, especially because I'm from Houston originally. I mean, she can't drop a song that people don't love and want to dance to and move to for the summer. So it's great. And thank you three for joining us for what is actually the final Igniting Cultural Capital session for this year. We won't be picking it back up again until next year. And thank you, our audience, for tuning in once again. Of course, stay connected to Culture Bank, subscribe to our newsletter, get, of course, what we like to say is the best business news for hip hop culture out there. And we'll see you all next time.